So, folks, there's this guy named Ben Shapiro, and he had a surprise guest on the other day. One former Prime Minister of the UK, Liz Truss. Sorry, not Liz Truss. Liz Truss! And ironically, you can't trust her, because she has the political intuition of a head of lettuce. And if that doesn't make sense, if that seems oddly specific, well, we're going to get to it in just a bit here. Yes, Liz Truss, the lettuce lady. Let's take a look here.
Alrighty, folks. So I'm not live today, but a few weeks ago, I sat down with Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister of the UK, who was unfairly maligned by the media, treated as though she had done something terrible by talking about the necessity for tax cuts and regulatory cuts.
Oh man, the UK's economy is so screwed over by these conservative politicians. And of course, Ben Shapiro's like, no, guys, she had some good ideas. She was going to make my rich friends richer. Don't you understand? She was going to make the capital class more wealthy. That's always good, you fools, you simpletons.
In Great Britain, we sat down to talk about the essentially invasion of the West.
I just want to throw out there that this would be like sitting down and treating, I don't even have a good example of what this would be like. I don't know. This would be like sitting down with the athlete who tied for fifth and talking to them as if they were a world-class athlete for tying for fifth place years ago when they were in college. It'd be something like that. It's an embarrassment if you at all stop and think about it, right? This is literally one of the worst politicians in the United Kingdom's history, and that history goes all the back very, very far when we're talking about it in the European context. Okay? She came in, made everyone in her political party and everyone in the opposition party so angry that she had to leave politics in disgrace in record time.
People who really, really hate the West. It's a pressing issue for not just Europeans, but for Americans. Here's what it sounded like. Well, Liz Truss, former Prime Minister of Great Britain, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Great to be here.
So why don't we start with what went wrong in Great Britain? Keir Starmer is now the Prime Minister of Great Britain, to the shock and despair of many of us.
Oh no, the worst person you know just made a great point.
How exactly did that come about? Because you had conservative dominance for a period of time. It appeared the Conservative Party moved in basically a leftward direction. There's heavy emphasis on things like Green New Deal type things that you would see in the United States, an unwillingness to revise any of the sort of bad fiscal bargains of the past. How do you arrive at a point in British politics where Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are dominant, and you have a rising Reform Party with Nigel Farage, and the Tory Party, which had been dominant for well over a decade here, now seems to be sort of fading?
I think a lot of British...
Can Labour even be saved anymore? Comrade Girl, I'm not up on my UK politics, really. But my understanding is that the answer is no. It seems to me that in their multi-party system in the UK, the energy is all going into Corbyn's new party, and I think, depending on how fast that happens, the shift could be pretty quick, because people are really angry in the UK.
Problems go back many, many years. And we've always had a problem with our bureaucracy and the power of the administrative state in Britain. But Tony Blair made it a whole lot worse in 1997. He gave more...
Okay, Jess, I was also thinking about how much I hate her shoes. And you went and said it. Thank you. Thank you for being the first person to throw it out there. They're awful.
Powers to the Bank of England. He outsourced huge powers to the Human Rights Act, to the judiciary. He made the judiciary unaccountable. So what happened under Blair is a massive shift to the left. And all of these institutions, whether it's the police, the judiciary, they've been captured by left-wing ideology. So you see the promotion essentially of Islamism, of the net zero.
I don't. I'm always stuck on this point. Is it really 2005 again? Are we literally, the promotion of Islamism? What are you talking about? Where in the UK are they passing Sharia law? What are you talking about? Yeah, yeah, all of the Islamists in the UK Parliament. What are you talking about? You know? Just absolute garbage.
Zealotry of things.
People want the planet to still be here for their children. They're so whiny. Yeah, no shit, lady. It's almost like people are dying of environmental factors that are worsening year after year because the planet is dying.
Things like pro-transgender extremism. This
pro-transgender extremism? Hey, wait a minute. When they talk about pro-transgender extremism, what do they mean? Do they mean the feminization camps are real and they're all in Scotland? The Scots are feminizing the rest of the UK? What is happening? The secret underground feminization caves of England where the estrogen and testosterone flow freely? What are we talking about when we talk about the pro-transgender extremism? Because I've actually looked it up, and kind of seems like when these people say pro-transgender extremism, what they mean are not like transgender people are forcibly trying to transition other people or like doing bombings at various places throughout the country. No, what they mean is a transgender woman tried to go like to the bathroom. Like a trans man did his best not to shit his pants in public by using a toilet, and everyone has a problem with this for some reason. Like it really is silly, right? It really is silly. These people are like, transgender extremism, and what they're talking about is like someone doing their best to not like have to like take a dump on the street. They would rather have trans people shitting in the street than like treat them like human beings. It's crazy. Crazy. Yeah, just trans people being allowed to live in society to someone like Liz Truss is extremism. And frankly, unfortunately, to a lot of people in Labour as well.
This is all now baked into British institutions. And the problem for the Conservatives...
the Great British Bake Off. I am familiar with it.
...is rather than saying we're going to reverse all that stuff, they said, we're the heir to Blair. We want to copy him. We want to triangulate. And we didn't take the steps necessary to get control back in the hands of Parliament and actually do the things the public wanted, like controlling immigration, like having cheap energy, and all of those policies. And I spent 10 years as a government minister struggling against the bureaucracy, but all the time I felt like I was swimming against the tide because they had so much power in the system. And this is ultimately why I ran to be Prime Minister in 2022. I wanted to take on the orthodoxy, the net zero orthodoxy, the Keynesian orthodoxy, the mass migration orthodoxy. But what I discovered was when I tried to do a package of essentially keeping taxes low, getting on with fracking, controlling government spending, I just faced the most massive barrage. And it wasn't just the bureau.
A massive barrage from the pro-transgender extremists. They took me out with all of their estrogen and all of their testosterone and their spironolactone and
bureaucrats. It was some people in the Conservative Party that I would call conservatives in name only, but it was also the whole international,
you guys, you're trying to bring Rhino over to the UK. God,
I didn't have unlimited power, so I was oppressed.
I mean, that is basically what she's saying, Nomi Sunrider. People didn't like what I was doing and ousted me from my political position, but I'm a genius.
Davos elite, the IMF intervened, even Joe Biden criticised my policies. And what I found out was just how powerful in Britain the system is. And what we've had for many years a failing system. Tony Blair made it a lot worse.
We have for many years a failing system. And I think a lot of that blame lies on, prime ministers. Not me. Not me. But the other prime ministers.
He took the levers out of the hands of politicians, We failed to turn it round as Conservatives. And the British public hate it. That's why they voted Brexit in 2016. They wanted things to change in our country. They voted again in 2019 for Boris Johnson because he said the things would change. And they voted again for Keir Starmer, which was a kind of last-ditch attempt. But the problem is the same people are still in charge of whoever you vote for. You've still got the same governor of the Bank of England. You've still got the same people running the Home Office. You've still got the same people in the police force.
Liberal Dan.
You've still got the judges that are unaccountable making these crazy decisions, like locking up people for posting on X. And that is what is going on in our country. And frankly, I think in 2029, which is when the next election is going to be, people will vote for change, and they may well vote for Nigel Farage. But if he doesn't deal with the bureaucracy, if he doesn't reverse those laws that Tony Blair put in, he is not going to be able to deliver change either, because I've seen it on the front line. You cannot...
God, she's so boring, like watching a head of lettuce.
Deliver massive system change with people who are against you and people who want to undermine you. And they don't just want to undermine me, they want to undermine Western civilization.
Like who? Who undermined you? I named them. I need their names.
That is what we're talking about. And I think this is what Trump...
Yeah, I lost at politics because, not because I'm boring and people hate me, but because they undermined me. Dog.
Trump has learnt from his first administration is you've got to actually take on the Harvards of this world. You've got to take on the State Department. You've got to take on the Congressional Budget Office. All of these people that make up the system are part of the problem.
I mean, I think that your example is such a telling one.
You were the prime minister. All of these people who make up you were the head of the system. That seems to be one of the major things missing from your analysis.
Because when you came into the office, when you became prime minister, essentially you were trying to push forward a package of deregulation and tax.
Just to be here. An interesting observation. Weren't people fucking miserable under the stupid austerity policies from her party? And the answer to that is yes, they were. Everyone hated her. Everyone.
Cuts. And this ended the financial world, apparently. Everyone went nuts. The Bank of England suggested that the entire country would no longer be creditworthy. And that sort of bizarre reaction can only be explained by a desire to maintain the status quo. Because
Absolutely.
all of those budgetary issues still exist under Keir Starmer. It's not as though the spending has dramatically decreased under Keir Starmer.
No, it's increased.
Or as though they're bending.
But you were doing something different with your bill and everyone hated it.
The cost curve on the National Health Service or something. They're not touching any of the underlying dramatic drivers of Britain's national debt and slow growth. But the minute you say, let's try to unleash the economy through tax cuts and deregulation, they're like, oh my gosh, you've now created...
Yeah, maybe because not all tax cuts and not all deregulation maneuvers are good, Ben. Maybe it's more complicated than tax cuts always good, deregulation always good. Maybe it's kind of like, I don't know, sometimes cutting taxes might make sense, or sometimes deregulating one or two things might make sense. It's almost like you are treating it as a permanent, perpetual rule that cutting taxes is universally good, and that's just not true.
A gap between government revenues and government expenditures, and that gap is unsustainable. It was unsustainable before, it's unsustainable now. You were just trying to actually change the system to actually get some...
Oh, it's kind of weird that Ben Shapiro in this particular instance recognizes that, perhaps unsustainable problems that persist in the long term could have extremely negative ramifications for everybody. Like a planet, say.
Real-life supervillains are so boring. She should be shouting, I am the avatar of the West. Kneel or all civilization shall crumble.
I mean, that would at least be more entertaining. Thank you for the $5 super chat.
Growth and dynamism in the system, from what I understand.
That is right. And in fact, after the fact, the Bank of England admitted that 2/3 of the rise in bond prices was down to their failure to regulate the pension industry. So they successfully blamed what was a market jump on me, although they subsequently admitted that it's their fault. But nobody in the mainstream media in Britain wants to report that. And in fact, only today, Keir Starmer is attacking Nigel Farage, saying he would implement the same economic policies as me. So they use me as a kind of bogeyman of what happens when you cut taxes. But of course, my tax cuts weren't allowed to stand. So the policy was never even tried. What happened was that some relatively small changes in...
I gotta be honest with you, I don't think I have it in me to watch all the way through this 25-minute long interview. I don't think I have it in me. I'm gonna give this like 2 or 3 more minutes, and then I'm gonna call it, because this is genuinely deeply unpleasant to me. Not just in the sense that, like, I'm very bored, but I'm also infuriated by how incorrect they are. But it's also because I recognize that this is not top tier content. I thought it would be fun to point out, oh, ha ha ha, look everybody, it's Liz Truss. Look at how irrelevant and silly and, like, completely out of touch she is. Because I have to remind you all of one very important thing. And that important thing is that the reason she is talked about as Liz Lettuce Truss is because she was lambasted back in 2022 for being essentially like a canary in the coal mine. Essentially that she was going to lose out to the lifespan of a head of lettuce. And this was hit on so hard that literally a news outlet or a tabloid in the UK did a live stream of a head of lettuce in a Liz Truss wig, and they put a face on it, and Mr. Potato Head in arms, I guess? And it was still unwilted by the time Liz Truss had to leave office because everyone hated her. This lettuce outlasted Liz Truss. So understand, like, the reason she goes on Ben Shapiro's show, right? The reason she does this is because in the UK context, she would be laughed out of basically any room. This is not someone who commands respect. This is not someone who deserves respect. This is someone that is genuinely one of the most repellent political figures in UK history. And that's saying a lot. Okay? That is saying a lot. I want Mehdi Hassan to get her on stage. It would be so unfair. It'd be so unfair. Don't need any competency if you're born rich, though. Well, that's true, right? But not only is she born rich, but she's going on Ben Shapiro because American audiences don't know her. All they know is former British Prime Minister. It's an attempt to rehabilitate her life and career and to be able to do, like, cushy speaking engagements across the United States. Yeah, going on Mehdi Hassan with him would be like watching a pro boxer beat up a toddler. It's true. She was sent out to fail by the party, of course. Yes, she's useless as a politician, but she was put up as a fall guy. I mean, it's true. And she certainly fell. You know I said we'd watch 3 more minutes, but I think we're calling it here. I think I'm going to call it here. This is the note to end on, you know? Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Support the show, you scallywags.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, dating, flame more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.